Call the meeting to order.
The meeting was posted according to open meeting laws.
Roll call.
President Johnson.
Here.
Trustee Alexander.
Here.
Trustee Holm. Here. Trustee Nugent. Here. Trustee Renucci.
Here.
Trustee Smalley.
Here.
Trustee Wisniewski.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, we will start with citizen participation per Village Resolution 1701. Anyone wishing to address the village board during citizen participation will be allowed 5 minutes. Your subject must specifically relate to matters under the jurisdiction of the village board, whether on the agenda or not. The village board should not engage in a discussion regarding comments because it was not part of the publicly noticed agenda. Upon conclusion of this citizen participation segment, members of the audience are not allowed further comment unless they're participating in a public hearing or specifically allowed by a majority vote of the village board due to involvement in an agenda item. That said, going once. Marty, come on up.
Marty Zess, representing 2839 Main Street. Just a couple items on the School Street assessments. Number one, just a recommendation that maybe you guys set up a Saturday morning meeting with the neighborhood and walk from property to property and explain exactly what's going to be done and how it's going to be done. And I mean, I think you'd make it a lot easier to swallow some of these assessments that are going to be coming up if they know exactly what's going on. Number two is the ordinance on corner lots. I don't know when it was created or how it was created, but what was the intent on a corner lot? Was it so that they only paid on one frontage to give them a break? If it was, I don't know, but then a double lot should be able to get that same break. I mean, treat everybody alike, if that was the reasoning behind a corner lot ordinance. Number three comes to a long problem that we've had with that property is with that lift station that sits down there in the wide open. I think in a residential area, anywhere else, I don't think your code officer would allow that. I think you'd be written up for the way it looks. And, you know, it's been promised that a building was going to put around that for 12 years now. Nothing's been done. A village board actually okayed it. Nothing's been done. I just would like to get some of these things taken care of. And, I mean, School Street does need to get done, but let's do it properly. And, you know, so everybody's satisfied the way it's done. That's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Marty. And I think some of our discussion on the agenda item for the assessments, I think we'll be able to address points 1 and 2. I know we'll have to take up number 3 in further discussions with you. Thanks for coming. Other comments during citizen participation? Going once, going twice. Okay, I will close citizen participation. We'll move on to consent agenda. One motion and a second. We'll approve all the following items. Any item may be pulled from the list and voted on separately.
So I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion?
Two things. One, can we pull the minutes from 327? Trustee Holm and I weren't here for that, so.
Okay.
And the second one is under the annual appointments, if we can add John Morath to the emergency services.
I think we already approved that, so that will be,
He wasn't
Yeah.
on this list, though.
right, because this is new. Like that was brand new, and so we'll start the cycle, so in 2 years' time, then he'll reappear.
Perfect.
Could I ask one item too? And it's, I guess maybe it might not be that important, but on a lot of these applications that we get copies of it to read and look at about who's applying for these applications, regardless of whatever they're for. I'd like to see a line where they can actually print their name so I can see who the hell is writing it, because I can't read these names, and I don't know who it is.
Which item, you're looking at the, there's a number of these, so which, corn and brat roast, okay. Knights of Columbus. Okay, so the motion on the floor is everything minus minutes of 3:27. Okay? All right, any other questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item, or minutes of 3:27 need to be adjusted to show that you and Jim weren't here, right? Okay. So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I'll second that.
All right, any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I think to 40's point, the more we can encourage people to use the fillable PDF form, the better. All right.
They're all offered the fillable PDF, but that particular person, I will tell him that in the future he must do that, and he just didn't.
All right, item 1 under miscellaneous business, consider approval of application for combination Class B beer liquor from Elevate 88, Inc. for Elevate 88, 2919 Main Street, Chalchin Riley agent for period from 4/15/2024 to 6/30/2024, prorated for balance of license year.
Or I'll move to approve.
I'll second it.
Questions or discussion? Yes, 40.
Lo and behold, there's a line that says print name.
All right, any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 2, review of special assessment report for School Street project and possible direction to staff. Tim? Jason, whoever wants to take point. Since I didn't see a memo, I'll say Tim.
Thank you. So we're presenting the special assessment report for School Street project. Includes the roadway work as well as utility work. The assessment report was prepared in accordance with the village ordinances. If you look, there's the base report, and then there's the spreadsheet behind that goes through the costs per unit as the project was bid. So those are actual costs as bid. As we know, during construction, some things will change. Hopefully not a lot, but there will be changes to things as we get into the real world and out of paper space. So I'd like to open it up and see if you have any questions on how we did or any items in specific.
Would just like to point out the potential for change exists in sanitary laterals. If there's plastic pipe currently underground, we're obviously not going to remove plastic to replace plastic, but the idea is to get any clay pipe within the right-of-way out and removed. And that's why the bid is broken down the way it is. There's a connection at the main charge and then a lineal footage charge for plastic pipe. And then we're assessing for curb and gutter, driveways, and sidewalk repair.
I noticed you also put in, I guess as an added helper would be if people had to get their lateral replaced from the line to the house. You also put that cost in there, correct?
For one address for a water service, and that's based on lead and copper sampling results.
Got it.
That's why that
But I'm
address
saying-
is included
but
in there.
Now, but are these numbers going to be applicable if you find something else on any of the other residents?
That was something we'd have to work through with the contractor. I would think so, but again, we would have to work through that with the contractor.
So Jason and I talked about this briefly, but Tim, could you, I guess, comment on the amount here for for driveway? That's really being, I guess, the necessity of that is due to the installation of the curb and gutter. Is that right, or am I wrong in that?
Curb and gutter or sidewalk.
Yeah, I mean, there's curb and gutter and sidewalk being added in different places or being repaired. And some of the driveways are due to the change from on the west end from the rural section where there's no curb to adding curb, so that requires it. And then with curb and sidewalk, that section has to be, per ordinance, has to be concrete between the curb and the sidewalk, which is also a material change from what's there today as well. And then we're also working to match elevations, especially in that west end, it's very, very extremely flat. And so the curb and gutter is making some of the elevations, it's forcing some of the elevations to change slightly from where they are today.
So I have some general comments for the board to discuss, but before I get us far afield here, any other questions or comments for the report that Tim's got in front of us?
So how does this compare to the special assessments we had a couple of years ago on the sidewalks?
You talking about for ES?
As far as the base price or the bid price?
Yeah, I mean, was there an increase? I know we've had some inflation issues, but how does that price compare to what we had before?
I have a good question. I have not reviewed that to check back from a couple of years ago. I know in general, across the board, we are seeing inflation and costs for especially construction and elsewhere.
I have a question. Tim, as far as you mentioned below in the, excuse me, you have concrete sidewalk is generally 4 inches thick, but you have concrete sidewalk at 6 inches, and I'm assuming that's for the sidewalk that has to span a driveway, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
For residential driveways, commercial driveways in the village is 8.
Other questions for Tim? So one of the things I've been talking a lot with Jason about is, and Jason was very patient in all my peppering of him with questions. How do we compare as a village to surrounding municipalities in terms of what we are and are not assessing? So there are other, I think Elkhorn, they assess, I have to go back and look, but so I won't say a specific city. There are cities and villages around that will charge 100%. So whether it's repair or new, sidewalk or curb and gutter, they special assess that. completely.
Elkhorn and Delavan are two communities that are 100% on the property owner.
Okay, thank you. So that's not us. We were looking for corner lot ordinances. Not always very clear. And actually, is for even the challenges, as Marty pointed out, ours is actually a little clearer than a lot of these others and I was reading through some of them. So the question I want to put in front of the board, and this is not to take an action right now, but for direction to staff, and this is a report, we'll approve any special assessments at a public hearing later in the year. We spend an awful lot of time, the amount of time I've been on the board, every time we do a street project, we're always debating this. We debated it for ES and church, we debated it for, I think, 2 other projects that I've been on the board during. And when you go back and you look at the percentages of this, and by the way, when we take out debt for this, we take out debt for the full project. We don't take out debt minus what we think is going to be assessed. So we're fronting the cash on this anyway. We do a lot of work with Tim. I think we spend a lot of time and hours and headache for what is relatively not a large dollar amount to us in a project, and yet is a very large dollar amount for individual property owners. I'm not arguing that we eliminate all special assessments, things like sewer laterals and some of the water lines and stuff, which are specifically owned by the property owner. That I would not argue. I think that should continue to be specially assessed. But like my question about the driveway, if we're going to ask somebody to pay, I'm not looking at a specific address here, but thousands of dollars to redo the end of their driveway only because we're putting in curb and gutter, and there's nothing wrong with that driveway, or even worse, let's say 6 months ago they had to replace their driveway for some reason. Now we're going to come in, rip it out, and charge them again. I don't think that's fair, and I'm tired of talking about it, and I'd like to clarify our ordinances that is, when it comes to curb and gutter, sidewalks, and any charges that would result as to the repair or implementation of that, that we develop ordinances that is not specially assessed.
That seems only right.
And I think that also starts to address the corner lot question. You know, it's difficult, you know, the Zest property there is quote-unquote not a corner lot, but it is a double frontage, and we have double frontages. And I worry that we're going to be back. Either way, I think that ordinance through this process has to be clarified, or maybe it's repealed. I don't know. I'll leave that to how we word the ordinance, and we'll look at that. I will say that there is an alley in the village that we do not technically own, but we kind of sort of maintain. We want to make sure that this ordinance doesn't apply to that. But I just feel like every year, or I shouldn't say every year, every time we do one of these projects, we talk about this 3, 4, 5 times. We get people riled up, you know, and all for, when I was calculating this out, you know, 10% of a project. I just don't think it's right. It's fair. We heard from people last time we talked about this project. They're like, my driveway's fine. I don't want curb and gutter. Well, we want curb and gutter. We want curb and gutter because it maintains the road and it improves drainage and all these other things. That's great for the village. It's great for all the taxpayers. Why aren't all the taxpayers sharing in that burden?
Yeah, myself, I don't have a concern about it. I think that's reasonable. I mean, you know, if we're doing something for all of the taxpayers, to your point, then all of the taxpayers should probably chip in on it, as opposed to just the individuals that happen to have their property in front of this project.
And again, things like laterals, and those cost a lot. If you go back and you look at the ES project, we did a lot of sewer lateral lining. It's about $5,000 a pop, and a lot of people are very upset about that, and I understand that, and that's a big bill. And then the relief that we give taxpayers for that is we offer a 10-year, 2% loan to cover that. And that's better than paying $20,000 after we do the road to come in and dig up and then repatch it and do all that, and then that property owner's left with a $20,000 bill that, with no loan opportunity at 2%. So there's some preventative maintenance that has to be required, and that's always going to be a sticking point, but I'm not looking to change that. That's not my opinion. So I guess I'm looking for consensus from the board that if you're in agreement with my position here, that we direct staff to bring back these changes for us, and that's the way we're going to operate on this project and going forward. And yeah, that's not what we used to do. We're going to draw the line. This is what we're doing going forward to try to make it right. We've corrected errors in the past. If somebody finds an error about something we misassessed in the past, we'll correct that. But this is a policy change, not a trying to, reset, years past.
You need a motion? Or do you just think?
I would like a motion on that, just to say that we've got the board support in that to bring that, and I think it gives staff time to work on that before we get to the end of the year on what we've got to do when we finally approve whatever the special assessments are going to be for this. So yeah, I would appreciate that.
I got a question before, excuse me, and I get it's a matter of order. I don't know if just a motion would suffice, or should this be put into a resolution or something else that the board would adopt, because this is a pretty big step.
This is to direct staff to develop ordinance changes, which that would be.
That's fine. I just didn't want
Yeah.
to make a motion and just
No,
leave
it's
it
not,
at
you
that.
can't, no, it's to direct staff. We're not, so we walk out of this meeting today, assuming that motion passes, the ordinances are still what they were when we walked in.
You or me, John? I'll make a motion to direct staff to review the current ordinance and offer revisions for our review regarding, based on special assessments. Enough?
Okay, then I'll second it.
All right, any questions or discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so Marty, I think that'll address your points 1 and 2. Yeah, you're welcome. And I think we're just going to make also planning a lot easier. You know, I think Jason, from an administrative standpoint, gets run around on a lot of these, so now I can stop asking him questions about it. All right, Tim. So I think that's going to be kind of the catch then on the driveways, is just how much are quote unquote we causing versus no, it just it has to be done, and that would be kind of treated like sewer laterals, as I suspect where our ordinance verbiage will go. So, but I really appreciate your help in breaking it down. It helped me do the analysis I needed to do to come to that decision. Thank you.
I would ask, Matt, I guess we're going to go this route. I would just ask for, at least for this project, to at least have a review of what those costs that we just are going to take into the village's receivable. Thank
Yeah,
you. And I'd like to know what those totals are going to be, so we realize how much we're actually talking about.
We're budgeting for the entire project, as Matt said before, so we pay the contractor and then we're reimbursed, obviously, over the
I
special
got that,
assessment.
but we have nothing coming back in then, is what I'm saying.
That is correct. And based off of Tim's report, we could bring you with the proposed language change to ordinance, how that looks for this project.
I just think it would make sense for us to know how much we're actually adding instead of getting anything back, that's all.
It's a reasonable request, so I'll leave it to you guys to do that.
Renovation agreement for 2954 Main Street.
Second.
Okay, any motion and second, any questions or discussion? Go ahead, Forrest.
I have a question in regards to number 5, the renovation commitment. There is, I read through it, and it did talk about having, timeframes as far as, instead of just from start to finish. And I thought, I put a note in the column here, and it said, should we have dates quarterly from the closing, or at least a roundabout area from the closing to the finish of those, so we have some idea of when they might be due? Instead of saying, well, just bring it in when you can.
You're talking about the quarterly update?
It says buyers shall give renovation and violation remediation progress updates to the village in writing and at the village board's discretion in person as well, at least quarterly.
I would assume the quarterly starts at closing because they have 12 months from closing, 40.
To get occupancy, right?
Correct.
I understand. I guess some people's idea of quarterly and other people's ideas of quarterly could move, but
My idea is every 3 months, frankly.
you're not on the hook for anything, no, John.
Quarterly, as is commonly understood to mean 3 months or 90 days. Sometimes 91. Yeah.
Yeah, I looked at that too, and quarterly is fine, I think. So, yeah.
I do appreciate, Eileen, that you all put in some, staff have the authority to have some wiggle room here without having to come back to us. So that was very good. Thank you.
So John and Jason, I know you guys recuse yourself from the meetings. I don't know if are you recusing yourself from this motion too?
Yeah, unless they had some personal gain from this contract. So that's a good question, though. Thank you for thinking that. That is your right. Okay. Any other, is there, I don't think we have a motion here. I need a motion. I'm sorry, you did make a motion? Did we have a second? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Corrected. All right, we do have a motion and a second. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And we have one abstention. All right, motion carries. Item 4, consider recommendation from Plan Commission to approve a one-lot certified survey map to merge 5 existing parcels located off Main Street at the intersection with School Street, Overlook Ridge Exchange, LLC. This was approved at last week's Plan Commission. And this is for the Overlook Ridge apartments to merge all 5 of those lots into one piece.
I'll make a motion to approve the one-lot certified survey map to merge 5 existing parcels located off of Main Street at the intersection of School Street, Overlook Ridge Exchange, LLC.
Second.
Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Ordinances and resolutions. Item 1, Resolution 2024-04. Recommendation from the Plan Commission for a revision of the village's comprehensive plan. So I will open the public hearing related to this. I guess now that we're in the public hearing, Eileen, can you give us a brief summary? Because I think this is from a ways back.
Yeah, I'm going to try to remember myself all the details, but the reason there's a gap in time is for this type of change, the Plan Commission will adopt a resolution, and then we have to publish a Class 2 notice, which requires 2 publications, so one week, and then a second week it's published in our paper, and then we have to wait a week in between. There has to be 7 days before the board reviews it. So that's why there's that gap. The Plan Commission had recommended changing the use. The owner of the property had petitioned to the Plan Commission to change the use from a highway business to light industrial. These are the properties that are behind the Road Ranger property. So the Plan Commission had approved that, and they're recommending that change to the comprehensive plan. What that change would allow then is for that applicant to apply to change the zoning then. So in the comprehensive plan, we talk about the type of land use, and then in the zoning code, we talk about the actual zoning of the property. So then that zoning would change to, he's looking for an industrial zoning. I do not recall if it's a light industrial or general industrial zoning.
So we're in a public hearing. Any comments? Okay, any questions for the public hearing from the board or discussion? Okay, seeing none on both, I will close the public hearing.
I'll move to approve ordinance 2024-04.
You mean resolution?
Resolution. No, it's ordinance.
Yeah, mine says ordinance,
It says
too.
ordinance 2024-04.
Okay, the agenda says resolution.
You're correct. The agenda's wrong. It's
was
an
a
ordinance.
resolution.
It was a resolution at the Plan
At the
Commission.
Plan Commission.
Yeah, so it's an ordinance, okay. So your motion is, okay, all right. I know, I'm having trouble this evening, thank you.
I'll second it.
Okay, we're seconding the ordinance motion. Any other questions or discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, is this a resolution? It says resolution.
This is for sure a resolution.
Okay. All right. Item 2, Resolution 2024-06, approval of urban area boundary recommended by WISDOT. Eileen, would you give us a brief overview?
So urban area boundaries are determined by the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. They do it approximately every 10 years after the census. Jason and I actually met with an individual from the Wisconsin DOT because we were not familiar with this at all. The area that they are proposing being the urban area boundary really is no change from the prior urban area boundary, except that East Troy is getting broken off from McWanago. So after the prior census, we were part of the McWanago urban area boundary. Now East Troy has its own urban area boundary. There is an area that was in prior that he explained that doesn't really pertain to us, but it's this section that goes towards like Eagle, North Prairie area that they actually broke off and is no longer in the urban area boundary. They make that determination on several factors. I'm going off memory, but I know I included in my memo, basically population, traffic counts, those type of things. And the reason that that's important is it has to do with federal funding of roadways.
So it has to do with federal funding of roadways, okay. It doesn't just have to do with what the DOT considers to be East Troy for the next 10 years?
So, when I was down going for the eclipse, we were reading about these random towns in Illinois. We were driving through, and something on Wikipedia referred to these two towns as a micropolitan. So maybe we are now the greater East Troy McWanago micropolitan. Yeah, that's, yes.
I had that guy growing up.
Okay, any questions or a motion for this?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution 2024-06.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, staff reports. Fire chief report. We have the report from Chief DeGaro. Any questions or comments that we have on that? Maybe, Jason, anything you want to highlight?
Looks like another busy start to the year.
We obviously, I'm just going to roll right into the minutes as well.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So we ended up finalizing the agreement at hand right now. So it was signed. We added one additional member per municipality. We also equalized all the voting. So there is no municipality with a monopoly on any of the votes. So if we do end up tying, the president does cast the final ballot or final vote. So that was a really good thing. That's been in the works for quite a while now. So everybody's happy about that. As far as the chief's report here, there is a study going on with Michigan and East Troy Fire Departments, looking at what that's going to mean in the future, maybe possibly merging some services. I believe the chief out at Troy Center is looking at retiring, so, maybe possibly bringing them into the district. So more to come on that. And you can see we purchased an electric vehicle fire blanket, which is a new purchase for us. Hold on, let me finish.
Oh, go ahead.
So the reason that we got that is an electric vehicle, if it's on fire, it takes anywhere from 13 to 15,000 gallons to put it out.
Oh, I just can't imagine.
A tender carries approximately 5,000 gallons of water. So if we're going to put out a fire on these electric vehicles, we're going to have to call for multiple tenders to put this thing out. So that's going to cause a problem, especially if Quick Trip puts in these service stations or these charging stations. Also looking at, the possibility at Alpine Valley, if something would happen down there, we want to make sure that we're covered right away. So it was relatively, it wasn't that expensive, $2,800. And then we're going to go take some training. So we were going to go to Vernon and do some training with them, but that fell through. So I think Chief's going to get his own training set up for that. So some good stuff happening out of the district right now.
Great. Can you talk a little bit about the RFP on the accountant support?
I can't just yet. So that's coming up in this meeting.
Got it. Okay.
So that'll be on Wednesday. It's going to be the possibility of RFP on accountant, but also a possibility of discussion with the village in regards to services that we might be able to work with each other on.
And we have a Tri-Troy meeting, board meeting. We haven't had one of those in a while, next week. And we're trying to make sure that the two fire chiefs can be there to kind of talk about some of the work that they've been doing and have a broader discussion. So if you got questions, that's the time for that. Any other questions for Jason or comments on the fire chief's report or also the minutes?
I just had one thing. I know when the chief started, he put together a 5-year plan. Is he updating that every year? And is that something he could share? I just, the fire calls,
Right.
the calls have increased quite a bit, so I'm concerned, what's our 5-year plan? Is it going to capture the increase that we're seeing?
Yeah, his 5-year plan continues to go 5-year every year. So his 5-year plan will include, any operational, any big capital purchases. So all of that's included in their fire truck, ambulance, all of those items. So we continue to approve those every year. We're hopefully looking at adding maybe some additional staff. Currently, we have 6 EMTs full-time that rotate on 24-hour shifts. So hopefully we can look at possibly, bringing on some, but it's all money. So, but yeah, he does update that every year, comes out with the budget as well.
All good questions, good discussion. Anything else? Okay, we'll go back. March financial reports, financial summary, variance, capital versus spent, and airport. Any questions or comments for Eileen?
Do we have any idea at all, and I guess I'm asking just to guess, but how much remaining costs we have regarding the impoundment?
I do not have a dollar amount. We had a warranty line item in the bid that and I'll use a round number, $20,000, that we were holding back till grass is completely established. That's the main thing to yet pay out. There may be some minor other things yet that need to be paid out, but we're really waiting till we get through the spring, and hopefully the grass establishes itself. All this rain is going to help with that. And once we're happy with how the grass is established, then we can close that thing out. So I would hope within the next 2 months to be able to close it out and be done.
And I think we're going to do a presentation similar to what we chatted about. We did, we'll have Tim come in and close that out. Yep. Okay, thank you. All right, other questions on financial reports? Okay. 3, Police Department 2024 first quarter report. Any questions for the chief? Or chief, anything you want to highlight? Okay. Move on to committee reports. We already did emergency services with Jason. So number 2, draft plan commission minutes from last Monday, April 8th. Questions, I guess 40 or me? The big thing here was the approval of the Overlook Ridge, which we approved just a minute ago, the lot consolidation. Continue to talk about polystructures.
Traffic studies will do.
Yeah, the traffic study. So one thing we did add on the Overlook Ridge is a requirement for Sewall to submit a traffic study for staff to review and accept. And if that does require site plan adjustments, they'll have to come back to the Plan Commission. And then a lot of what we already approved here tonight, the extraterritorial zoning, Overlook Ridge. I guess for affecting Plan Commission, I know you're trying to figure out our next steps for zoning administrator. So some of these things that are on hold are waiting for us to get to a new zoning administrator.
Proposals were due today. I received 3 proposals that we'll be reviewing, and hopefully a recommendation will be to the board by May 6th.
Fantastic. Any questions for 40 or me? Okay. Item 3, library board minutes. Mary?
And if I understood correctly, if there was updates between, you would like to hear about some of the other things, correct?
Yeah, I mean, this is from March 12th,
Yeah.
but if you've got something else that's
Yeah.
happened since.
We
then-
met in April. The empty position that was held by Nancy has been filled. Her name is Maria, and please don't ask me the last name right now. But she was originally from East Troy, and she has librarian experience. So glad to have her, and she has started. The basement's been painted. One of the friends, Mike Zai, painted the basement. It looks really nice. And there's new shelving. A lot of work is being done to create Nancy's Corner. This is in honor of Nancy, and there are some other plans for some dedication from money that was received from Nancy. And the other thing they're really pushing right now, and I give Tammy a lot of credit, one of the things people can check out are experience passes. And some of those are going to state parks and a few other, well worth checking into.
I saw the sign for zoo passes to go to the Milwaukee County Zoo, so I was very happy about that.
2 passes, 8 people.
That's fantastic. Great. It's a great resource showing how we can have a library that's not just, I mean, books are important too, but that does more than just books.
Right.
We will discuss Tri-Troy next week about some updates about where we're at on the Tri-Troy Library. All right, anything else for Mary? Okay. I will make a motion to adjourn to closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 1985-1E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting of other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Potential development access through village-owned property and offers to purchase property.
I'll second that.
Roll call vote, please.
President Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Alexander?
Yes.
Trustee Holm?
Yes.
Trustee Nugent? Yes. Trustee Renucci?
Yes.
Trustee Smalley? Yes. And Trustee Wisniewski?
Yes.